Getting into ketosis seems like it's easy, and quite frankly it kind of is, but there's some ways that you can enhance or accelerate how fast you get into ketosis. One of the things that I want to point out first is when you're trying to get into ketosis, and maybe you've never done it before, you want to try doing it at a period of time when you're not under a lot of stress. Okay, here's the thing. Cortisol, stress, it's the enemy of ketosis. Okay, cortisol allows glycogen, which is stored carbohydrates in your muscles, to get released into the bloodstream. This, of course, triggers a blood glucose spike, which inhibits ketogenesis. It stops the production of ketones. When you are someone that is just first starting to get into ketosis, it's already hard to convince your body to create ketones. When you add glucose into the mix simply because of stress, it makes it very difficult. So I usually say, set the stage properly. You should be in a little bit more of a stress-free mode. I actually recommend starting a ketogenic diet right after vacation because you're calm, you're relaxed, and it's before you go right back to the hustle and bustle of work. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're keeping, of course, your carbohydrates very, very low, but you're periodically switching between higher fat and lower fat. Now, what I mean by that is when you're first starting on a ketogenic diet, you might have one day where you have let's say 100 grams of fat, and you might have another day where you have 50 grams of fat. What I have noticed in a lot of situations is that by reducing the fat intake now and then, you allow the body to adapt and use its own stored body fat for fuel. This is a very efficient process and allows the liver to utilize that fat as ketones a lot easier, thereby making the transition into ketosis a little bit easier. Now, a couple quick tips too, because not everyone likes to just take in a bunch of MCT oil. C8 MCT oil is going to generate ketones the fastest. Okay, that's great. But again, if you don't like having straight oil, then what's the solution? Well, believe it or not, goat cheese has a high amount of caprylic C8 acid in it. So what that means is if you consume goat cheese, you are in turn getting the MCTs that are going to allow you to get into ketosis a little bit faster. So enjoy the goat cheese. I always say just level it up, have a bunch of that goat cheese. Additionally, you can also have olive oil. Olive oil isn't an MCT, but it's a monounsaturated fat, and people forget that just because it's not an MCT doesn't mean that it's not effective at generating ketones. Studies have shown that monounsaturated fats actually create ketones quite well. Plus, there's some other benefits of olive oil that we don't have to talk about in this video. Okay, the next thing that you can do is prior to going on a ketogenic diet, practice a little bit of what is called alternate day fasting. Okay, there's been some studies that have shown that participants that alternate day fast, so they do one day of intermittent fasting, maybe 18, 20-hour fast, and then in one day not. Another day fasting, another day not. End up being a lot more fat adapted, and therefore it means that you can get into ketosis a lot easier. So the goal with alternate day fasting isn't necessarily to get you into ketosis, but it's to sort of allow your cells to get a little bit of a taste of what's to come when they do go into ketosis. So that what you want to do is, if you know you're going to go into ketosis next week, if you practice a little bit of intermittent fasting, it can help you out a ton. Additionally, if you want to get into ketosis the fastest, the best bet is just to do a little bit of fasting. Do a 24, 48-hour fast, and more than likely you're going to be in ketosis relatively quick anyway. And it just gets faster and faster the more often that you do it. But the big one that I want to talk about today is going to be what kind of exercise to do. Low intensity, steady state cardio is the best way to condition your liver to generate ketones. It is not the truth that you need to get rid of all the carbohydrates in your body first. They feel that they need to go and do full body glycogen depletion workouts and drain all their body's carbohydrate stores before their liver will ever produce ketones. That's not true. You actually just need to drain the liver glycogen. The muscle glycogen can still stay elevated. So to give you an example, if I were to go into ketosis right this second, I would probably still have a good amount of muscle glycogen stored. I don't have to burn through that in order to get into ketosis. So low intensity steady state cardio doesn't even touch the glycogen stores. It utilizes much more of beta oxidation, where the liver produces energy from fats. We want to condition that process to occur. So the first day or two, it's not even worth it to do a whole lot of activity, to be honest. It's not even worth it to do a lot of cardio because your body's not going to be burning those fats yet. So what I recommend you do is days 1 and 2, just keep it super low intensity. Maybe go for a little walk, okay? And then day 3 that you're trying to get into ketosis, go for a long walk, maybe a 60, even a 90-minute brisk walk. And that's going to help you generate ketones a lot faster than hitting the weights. In fact, hitting the weights or doing higher intensity work is actually going to slow down ketone production because you're going to burn through what ketones are available and your body will be forced to utilize glucose. And it's going to pull that from other energy substrates. So this whole time you need to be measuring. I cannot overemphasize that, okay? Because every situation is going to be different. Some days you might get into ketosis in 24 hours, and sometimes you might take 72 hours to get into ketosis. It all depends on stress and other lifestyle factors as well. But if you constantly measure and you do it a few times per day, you can see where you're at and where you should be timing your workouts, for example. So if you start to see your ketone levels are increasing, that would be a great time to go do some steady state, low intensity cardio to try to get that number up a little bit more to get you into that fat adapted state. So anyhow, when it comes to measuring, you want to leave the guesswork out of the equation and always leave the measuring to the meter. Keto-Mojo is the gold standard when it comes down to ketone testing. So as always, keep it locked in here with Keto-Mojo, and we'll see you soon.